Hello, hello. Welcome back, guys, to another video in the Let's Solve Tactics series. Yeah, I feel like solving some puzzles, and I think last time we reached to the 1700 mark. So, I should be challenged, and I'm sure there'll be some tough puzzles coming our way. So, let's see what we can do. Okay, so this one is white to play. Black just retreated their knight from e3 to d5. Go ahead if you would like to pause your video and solve. Okay, so first thing I notice is we are down in material. We are lacking a bishop, and also black is currently attacking the knight on d4. But we do have some good things going for us in terms of this open h file leading up to his king, and also the fact that he just pinned his knight to the king. So yeah, I think our chances most probably lie in the an attack of some sort on the king. So okay, let's look at candidate moves. Rook to h8 check, trying to checkmate with the queen comes to mind. Queen to h3 could be considered, trying to again checkmate down the h file. Other moves, knight to c6 could be considered, forking his queen and bishop. Yeah, I'm going to start there. So those moves. So I'm going to look at the most forcing rook to h8 check. So rook to h8 check will force king takes h8, and then I have queen h3 check. And if he goes to g8, I can checkmate him with queen to h7 check. But if he tries to block the check, he has to play bishop to h4 check, after which I take the bishop, and he can block again with the queen, with queen h5, which I will also take, and eventually I will checkmate. So that is looking correct. Yeah, check, 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 and mate on h7 next move. Okay, so we start off with a easy one. Let's see how this goes. Okay, black to play. Go ahead if you would like to pause your video. Um, Black pawns are coming up, are going up the board that way, so that way, and white pawns are coming down. Okay, so a knight endgame where the material is equal for the moment. The main feature I notice is the fact that his knight is attacked once by my king and protected once by his king. So there may be some removing the defender type of tactics. So starting to look at h6, pawn to h6 check. Um, that will force the king to move away and leave the knight hanging. So he can take the pawn, and I can take on f6. Then am I losing for some reason? If he goes pawn to g5 check, I can take on f5. If he goes g6 after that, I can always retreat my knight to e6, and I think I'm okay. So pawn to h6 looks like the obvious move. Any other options, interesting things that we could try? Knight to f3 check. He can go back to f4 and attack my knight. So that complicates it for no reason. I think I'm going to go ahead and play this. Oh, he doesn't take. So let's see why he did not take. What happens if I take his knight now? Is he setting up some stalemate tricks or something? I I don't think so. So I'm going to take the knight. Or is there something better? Let's see. I do not see any way to checkmate him right away. So I'm going to take the knight. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, white to play. Go ahead if you would like to pause. Black just pushed their pawn from f3 to f2. Okay, well, so yeah, the first thing to notice is the pawn is about to promote with check. So f1, queen check is coming. But I do have some good things of my own, in the sense I have the knight, the rook, and the king all concentrated around the black king. So there may be some opportunities to set up a mating net. So knight to e6 check comes to mind. Knight to e6 check will force king to g8. What can I do there? What if rook to e8 check? He goes to h7. And what then? Knight to f8 check. He may go to h8. Okay, well, I didn't find anything there, so I'm gonna look in a more thorough manner. Let's see. So what are our candidates here? So knight to e6 check is a candidate because it's a check. Uh, Rook to f7 could be something, although letting the king out to the queen side doesn't seem correct. So I don't think it is rook to f7, but it could be. Other than that, I do not think that there'll be a way for me to stop the f-pawn from queening directly. Rook to h7 is also a candidate for sure because I'm threatening mate. So rook to h7. But again, that allows the king to go to e8, and he may just run to the queen side. So that doesn't look good. Okay. Uh, hmm. I'm going to look at knight to e6 check then, because that does look most promising just based on the initial assessment that I did there. Okay, so knight to e6 check. So let's see, knight to e6 check. Now king to g8 is forced. Okay, and what can I do there? So I have rook to g7 check as a candidate, forcing king to h8. That actually looks very interesting. Or what else can I do after king to g8? Rook to e8 check is possible. King to g6 is possible, in fact, which also looks very interesting because I'm threatening mate. So after king to g8, king to g6, I'm threatening rook e8. So, okay. All very interesting. Okay, so knight to e6 check, king g8. Now let's see. Let's examine our moves one by one. I'm going to look at king to g6 first because that sets up a mate threat. So, so I'm threatening rook to e8 mate. His king can only go to h8, which will not stop the mate. So moving the king doesn't work. So if he makes a queen, so f1 queen, then rook to e8, queen f8, rook takes f8 is still mate. And if he plays rook f3, it's the same thing. He doesn't have any other checks to give to me, so that looks very promising. So I'm looking at knight to g6 check, king g8, king g6, threatening mate, let's say queen, and then rook e8, queen f8, rook takes f8. And because the knight on e6 defends the rook on f8, that looks like it'll be mate. After knight e6, king g8, I also thought that uh, rook g7 was interesting. Rook g7, king h8. The idea would be to then checkmate to bring my knight over to g6, but it takes a long time. So I'm going to go with the first idea because it seems unstoppable as far as I can tell. Now king g6 was the plan. Yeah, I still like it, so I'm going to do it. Okay, we are going down the line, and next move we would have checkmated them. They were forced to go queen f8 and rook takes f8 mate. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so black to play. Go ahead if you would like to pause your video. So the material looks like I'm one pawn down. Okay. I do have some pressure around the king. The queen, the rook are all hanging out near white's king side, and the knight could jump to g5 and join in the attack. So that looks promising. Also, there is a lineup of the queen and the bishop, so some bishop f5 could come, or there is also a lineup of the queen and the knight, so some bishop c6 could come. I'm just looking at the different ideas that are possible before considering actual moves. uh, hmm. Also, white himself may be having some ideas of knight f6, fork between my queen and bishop. Oops, sorry. Okay, so now let's see what moves can we make. Knight g5, as mentioned earlier, a definite candidate. Rook takes g3 uh, uh, could be considered, but I don't. Just doesn't feel like it'll work. But okay. Rook takes g3 check could be considered. Rook f1 check, I really don't think, but okay. Uh, Queen takes h2 check. Again, could be considered, but yeah, I don't think so. Rook f2. Actually, rook f2 is an interesting candidate, threatening queen to h2 mate. So that's an interesting. Oops, sorry. Move. So okay, so in terms of viable candidates, knight g5, rook f2. Uh, yeah, I think those are the moves that I'm going to look at. So let's start with knight g5. Knight g5, I hit his queen. Now he can either move his queen or he can attack my queen with knight to f6. If knight to f6, I can simply take the knight with my rook. And if he takes back, I can take his queen. So that cannot be great. Yeah. So knight g5, where does the queen go? He can go to e2, defending the second rank and sort of some kind of semi-pinning my queen. Now, if I go knight g3, sorry, knight h3 check. After that, after queen e2, knight h3 check. His king can move to, let's say, g2, threatening my rook. But then I have rook f2 check, winning his queen. So he could also go to h1. So knight g5, queen e2, knight h3 check. Or sorry, not check. It's not a check. Why did I go knight h3 then? Oh, it is a check. Yeah, sorry. Knight h3 check, king to h1. What do I have there? I have knight f2 check, king to g1 again. Hmm. Rook takes g3 check. I am not sure. I'm not sure if it leads to anything. Maybe it does, but I'm going to look at other options first. So rook to f2 was a very interesting move that we found. So rook to f2 threatens mate with queen takes h2, so has to be dealt with. Taking the rook is the obvious continuation, so king takes f2. Now, what's my follow-up? Queen takes h2, queen to g2. Uh, and is that it? Or I think the fun might end there. So rook f2, king takes h2. Sorry, king takes f2. Do I have any interesting moves? Other moves? Knight g5. Knight g5, queen g2. I don't think so. So queen takes h2, queen to g2. Yeah, and definitely my attack ends and I've lost a rook for a pawn. So rook f2, even though it looked interesting to me, doesn't seem to work. Hmm. Hmm. So we are in a bit of a bit of a tough spot. Okay. Also, I'm just now noticing that after knight g5, queen e2 can be met by rook takes g3 check, winning his queen. So that's encouraging. So knight g5, his queen cannot go to e2. So where can it go? He could try to trade queens with queen h4 maybe. Let's say he does that. What do we do there? Uh, Knight h3 check, king g2. Rook f2 check, king h1, followed by queen f3 check will win. So that's looking good. Uh, hmm. Knight g5. What else can he do? Queen e1. Let's say queen e1. What's my follow-up there? The queen can go to so many places, like, even queen c4. So what's my idea? What is the big idea with moving the knight? What am I threatening? Hmm. Let's say queen c4. Queen c4. Hmm. Does knight h3 check do anything? Knight h3 check. We know king g2 leads to rook f2, so that's nice. But what about king h1? King h1. I do have knight f2 check winning his rook, so that is also nice. Okay, so I guess knight g5 check does have the idea of knight h3 followed by either rook f2 or knight f2. So that looks good. What can he do in response? I think he has to move the queen. I don't think other moves will work. I'm going to go ahead and play that, but I definitely don't have everything figured out, but we'll see. Okay, we did consider this move, and here I think I was thinking knight h3 check. If he goes to g2, then I have rook f2, and if he goes to h1, then what did I have? I mean, I have knight f2, but I may have something else. But okay, I'm gonna. I don't think there'll be any other follow-up. My queen is basically trapped, so I have to play this check. And it says correct. But was it after king h1, or do I just, I don't know, trade queens and go knight f2, winning the exchange maybe? Maybe that's the idea. Let's analyze. So knight g5, queen h4. Oops, I'm not making moves. Knight g5, queen h4, uh, knight h3 check, king h1. Okay, knight f2. king g1, and now we can either make a draw or trade queens. Okay, trade queens, and then just take the exchange. Yeah, and we are doing well. Okay. Oh, I didn't see this point. Oh, but that's not the point. Okay. The point is we just win an exchange. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. Good enough. At least we figured it out. Let's continue. Also, I have a feeling this video is already getting long, but let's continue anyway. Okay, white to play. Go ahead if you would like to pause your video. So I see that this bishop on e4 is, currently being attacked with 3 times by my rook, my knight, my bishop, and protected only once. So that's very nice. But also by retreating his knight, black just attacked my bishop on f4. What else? His king is a bit open, in fact, quite a bit open. Uh, hmm, Excuse me. What else? There is a pin uh, on my knight. So his rook is lined up with my queen. So if my knight moves, my queen could be captured. Okay. Hmm. Okay, let's see what are the interesting candidate moves we could consider. Also, this knight on e6 could be a subject to a pin of some kind, maybe. Okay. Also, yeah, I keep saying also. My rook is lined up with his queen, which is also very significant. I think we have seen enough, and the fact that his king is on a open c file. So a lot of interesting factors going on. A lot of pieces hanging and different tactical motifs present in this position. So the question is what move to make. Hmm. What happens if I take on e4? That's definitely a candidate. So bishop takes e4, candidate. Rook takes e4 could be a candidate, but doesn't look as appealing because I'm giving up my rook. He can take with the knight. What else? Hmm. Knight takes e4. Giving up my queen, being fancy, could be a candidate of some kind. Could be considered for sure. What else? Even moves like rook to c1, just threatening discoveries, are very much, possible. Queen to c1, for that matter, could also be interesting. Okay, so too many choices, which is a problem. Hmm. Okay, so where do we start? Let's look at bishop takes e4. So bishop takes bishop. Now what can he do? He can always throw in a check with queen to c5 check. That's possible. But if he does that, I just play bishop to e3, save my bishop on f4, and I should be good. So after bishop takes e4, that is, he can take with the knight. That's one option. Or he can take my bishop on f4. So knight takes f4. I just realized that knight takes f4 will fail. So bishop takes bishop, knight takes f4 will fail to, let's say, bishop f5 check. And uh, my rook is lined up with his queen, and I'll pick up his queen. So that's nice. And after bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, rook takes e4, I am then protecting my bishop, and his knight is not able to capture. He could throw in a check with queen to c5 at any point, but I can always respond with bishop to e3. That immediately looks good because the material in the initial position is 1 pawn down, right? Yeah. So getting some material, getting an extra piece is very favorable. It's very nice. So any other moves? Moves like rook c1. I mean, I don't think I don't think I should consider those kind of moves. I can always play rook c1 check after capturing on e4 when the c file would have cleared. So I think bishop takes e4, knight takes e4, rook takes d1. I don't see any follow-up. Rook takes e4, knight takes e4. I don't see why I gave up my exchange. I'm going to go ahead and play this. Hopefully it works. Let's see. Okay, so far so good. And I think the point here was, I'm guessing, to play bishop f5, which we saw. Let's see any other moves here. Bishop to b7 will not work because his queen can capture. So bishop f5, a discovered check, or whatever you call it, is the point, and we win his rook after he takes our bishop. Yeah. So okay, let's keep going. Okay, so an end game of some kind. Black to play. Go ahead if you would like to pause. Which way are my pawns moving? Oh, oh no. I just noticed this is the infamous wrong colored bishop. Rook pawn with the wrong colored bishop endgame. So my pawn is going that way. So, h1 would be the queen in square, and my bishop is a dark squared bishop, so which is bad news because it cannot control the h1 square. So it is the, wrong colored square, wrong colored bishop, sorry. So now the question is, obviously I'm playing to win here because, white has no pieces. So how do I win? Hmm. Well, my pawn cannot move, so either my bishop that is attacked has to move, or my king has to move. So if my king has to move, I could go to g7 or go to h5. Going to g7 and letting his king run to the corner definitely cannot be correct, because once the king reaches, g1 or h1, it's a draw because, yeah, I have the wrong colored bishop. So my chances definitely lie in stopping the king from reaching the corner. How can I do that? I think by going king to h5 maybe. So king to h5, can I really stop him? If he takes my bishop, then after king to g4, I think I should be winning there. King g4, let's say king e5, h5, king e4, king g3, king e3, king g2, and I'm controlling the, once my king reaches g2, and if my h pawn cannot be captured, I'm winning. So that looks like winning. So what if he, doesn't take my bishop and tries to run? So king h5, king f4. Now what? I probably have to keep following him. So king h4, king f3. I'm just trying to keep him out of the corner. So king h3, king f2, king h2. But now my king is blocking the pawn, so I don't know how I win this. Let's see, king f1, let's say, or I don't know, king f3 maybe. King f3. Do I just play some bishop c, bishop d4 at some point? Kind of boxing him out. I don't know. I don't feel like I will be able to calculate this all the way through from here. I just have to go move by move. So moving the bishop right now anywhere does not seem right. So let's assume bishop d4. Now then he goes king e4, and he attacks my bishop and he'll be able to reach the corner. Let's say I go bishop d8, just save my bishop, make a passive move. He goes king g4, and he's able to, once he reaches, once he goes king g4, he's able to go, h3, g2, h1, travel on the light squares, and yeah, I cannot stop him. So king h5 is forced. King h5. Okay. Okay. Well, my plan was to go king h4 here. Uh, Again, I think he's threatening to go to the corner. My chances lie in stopping him. Moving the bishop somewhere intelligent, even bishop e5 is this good? Bishop e5, king f3, king h4, king g2. He's reaching the corner, so king h4 is forced. Well, by same logic, king h3 is forced, and apparently I have solved the problem. But I have no clue how I win this, so I'm going to analyze. This has to be very instructive. Okay. Okay, let's look. So king h5, king f4, king h4, king f3, king h3, king f2, king h2, and I had reached this position in my calculations, and now all kind of king moves are possible. So I was considering king f3. Now how do I win this? So h5, yeah, h5. What if he goes back? H4. What if he just stays here? F3, let's say. H3. What if I go here? Then bishop d4 check. What if king f1? King g3. And this is the point. Once my bishop is here, I have stopped him from reaching the corner, and my next two moves are h2 and h1. That's a nice endgame. Really good one to know. Wow, that's nice. I mean, I'm not too familiar with, theoretical endgames, so I'm not gonna say that I knew all this, but yeah, really nice. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, black to play. I think white just moved their bishop to d4. Go ahead if you would like to pause your video. So in terms of the material, it looks like I have 2 pawns extra, which is awesome. uh, but I do see that he is having a lot of pressure around my king. So queen takes f7 or knight takes f7. These kind of moves are threatened. And queen takes f7, yeah, looks particularly threatening. Okay. And also, of course, he's attacking my queen right now with the bishop. Okay. What do I do? I mean, in terms of things that are going well for me, I have a rook on an open file that could, go down the board and create some havoc. There is my queen is lined up with his king, so there could be some chances there. Okay. So let's consider what happens if I take his bishop with the queen. So the most radical move. So queen takes bishop, check. Now, if his king moves to g1, I of course take the rook and its mate. H1, sorry. If he takes the queen, which is the most likely response, sorry about that. If he takes my queen with the rook, I go rook to b1 check, and that essentially forces king f2. I can go rook to f1 check, and that is very conveniently checkmate thanks to my knight on f5 covering the f3 and h3 squares. Okay, so what I looked at there was queen takes, I'll just play it out. Check, check, and mate. Okay, so sometimes offense is the best defense. Okay, go ahead if you like to pause your video. It is white to play, and black just captured, I think our rook on h7. Okay, so yeah, this is a tough position for us. I mean, we are one rook down and also down by 2 pawns. So a rook and 2 pawns down. So our, we have to checkmate him somehow. To otherwise we are lost. So okay, with that, the candidate moves are queen f7 check or rook to h4 check. Those are the, I think, the only moves that probably make sense. So rook to h4 check forces king to g7. Now what's my follow-up? Queen to f7 check, king f7, rook h7, king g8. That doesn't lead to anything. Rook h7 check, king takes h7, rook queen f7 check, king h6, and I'm out of checks. So that doesn't lead to much, I don't think. So queen f7 check right away is the other candidate. So queen f7 check. Now if he goes to h8, rook h4 will be mate. And if he goes to h6, then how do I continue? Probably rook h4. So rook h4, king g5. Rook h4, king g5, I have rook g4 check. Now if he goes to h5 there, I have queen h7 mate. But he goes to h6, then queen takes g6 is mate. And if he goes to f5, then queen e6 is mate, is it? Okay, I think that is working. So I'm looking at queen f7 check. Now, of course, if he goes here, then this is mate. So that's easy. But queen f7 check, king h6, rook h4 check, king g5. Now rook g4 check. Now, if he goes to f5, then queen back to e6 is mate. And after queen f7 check, king h6, rook h4 check, king g5, rook g4 check. If he goes to h5, then queen takes g6 is mate. If he goes to h6, also that's mate. So that is all good. Queen to f7 is the move. Check, check, and next move will be mate. Either after king to h5 or h6, where queen takes g6 will be mate, or after queen to f5 or king to f5, queen e6 will be mate. Okay, let's keep going. Another position where we are down by 2 pieces. Okay. We have 2 pawns for 2 pieces, I guess. Yeah. Okay. So, but the good thing is we have, it's white to play, by the way. Good thing is we have a king that's totally boxed in. The black king, that is. It doesn't have a single move. Our queen is extremely actively placed. And also, he's lacking defensive resources near his king. So, if I, draw a line like that, not like that, oops, something like that. So you can see on the right side of this line, there are literally no pieces. Only his king is out there all alone. So that is a good thing. That is often a good indicator that a attack might succeed, a quick attack. So with that said, rook to e3 comes to mind, trying to swing my rook over and checkmate him. So rook to e3, that's one option. Queen g5 check, king h8. I'm not as sure about that. Rook to e3 looks like very interesting. Just I'm threatening a mate with rook to g3 check. It'll be mate after he blocks with his bishop. So what does he do there? So let's see if we can find a defense. So rook to e3. None of the queen moves will help. Bishop f7 could be tried. With the idea, if rook to g3 check, then bishop g6, blocking on the g file. Okay. Hmm. That's interesting. But if even if mm, hmm, if bishop f7 after rook e3, I think I can take on e8. So rook takes e8 check, bishop takes e8 is forced, and then I have knight to f5 maybe, threatening two checkmates, one with knight to h6 and one with queen to g7, and both cannot be defended, I believe. So that looks very good. So bishop f7 does not work. After rook to e3, what about knight f7? Knight f7, rook g3. Yeah, it's not helping. Any other moves? Rook e7. Rook e7, rook g3 again, and he's getting mated. Rook f8, rook g3 again, he's getting mated. What about something like knight e4, preventing me from delivering the check and attacking my queen? So if knight e4 after rook e3, so rook e3, knight e4, I can. That is actually a good defense. Okay. Knight e4 prevents rook g3, attacks my queen, and the knight is defended by the queen. So rook e3, knight e4. I was really feeling that I will win here, but let's see what we do there. Not so simple. Huh. Yeah, I'm not sure what we do there. So maybe instead of rook e3, I'm just noticing knight f5 is also a very interesting move, threatening queen to g7 mate. And g7 can only be directly protected by going rook e7, in which case I can take knight takes e7, which is mate. Okay, so knight f5, if he takes my knight, of course rook takes e8 is mate. And what other defense can he try? He can throw a check with queen takes g2. I can take, and then he can throw another check with bishop d5 check, whereupon I can move, let's say, to h2. And I'm still threatening the same mates. He can take on e1, but I can mate him. Yeah, I think knight f5 looks correct. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the pass percentage on that, because that was an interesting problem. Okay, 47.4. Yeah, I think, yeah, I feel pretty good that I found rook knight e4 after rook g3. So otherwise I was really close to convincing myself that rook e3 just wins, but knight e4 ends the fun. Yeah. Okay, fine, let's keep going. Or shall we stop right here? I think we should stop right here. It's probably been a long video, and we have reached 1750 plus. So we'll, yeah, we will continue our, you know, journey towards 1800 in the next video. Thank you for watching, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please comment below. Tell me what you liked, tell me what you don't like, um, you know anything else you want to share. And if you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing. I'm coming out with new videos every week, 2 to 4 videos every week. And yeah, and I hope to provide more videos. And yeah, see you later. Bye.